a sweeping operation to remove undocumented foreign nationals engaged in street begging across the country. And starting off first in the Greater Accra region, arrested more than 2,000 individuals. The Friday dawn operation targeted known begging hotspots, including Sabonzongo, Madina, Nima, Abose Okaim, and Obechebil roundabout. Also, according to official figures, 2,241 individuals were detained, 909 adults, which is made up of 384 males and 525 females, and some 1,332 children, made up of 577 boys and 755 girls. Assistant Commissioner of Immigration, ACI, Michael Amako Atta, head of public affairs at the Ghana Immigration Service, explained that the crackdown aims to dismantle criminal networks exploiting vulnerable migrants in this country.
This early morning, the Comptroller General of the Ghana Immigration Service gave a directive for an operation to be launched to rid the streets of the national capital of foreign beggars who have taken over our streets. And this is based on intel we've gathered over the period, where especially some criminal elements have organized networks and using these children, and even behind that, engaging in human trafficking and other trans-border crimes, and which we think is against national security and public safety. So we've started to pick them up, profile them, and then remove them from the jurisdiction. So as we speak currently, we've been able to pick about 2,241 foreign nationals, and they are being profiled. First, the GIS clinic is attending to them, and then the ops team undertakes the profiling. And then after that, we bus them to their various destinations. So this number is not just over 2,000 children, but it's made up of 384 male adults, and then 577 male children. Then we have 525 female adults, and then 755 female children. So that is the current breakdown of the numbers that we have so far removed from the streets and are in our holding centers now.
And the detainees are undergoing security and medical screening before deportation. However, the operation has sparked concerns about the possible violations of the fundamental human rights of these individuals, as well as ECOWAS protocols on free movement. ACI Michael Amakonta stated that the Ghana Immigration Service is coordinating with relevant embassies to ensure orderly returns or deportation, while assuring humane treatment as well of these detainees.
This early morning, the Comptroller General, the American screen and all that, then we look at their documentations as to how they enter the country and whether they are legal or illegal migrants. If you are an illegal migrant, definitely we'll remove you from the jurisdiction.
Finally, I want to find out, given Ghana's commitment to the African Union's Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, how is the Immigration Service coordinating with child protection agencies to ensure the rights of these vulnerable minors are held during and after the operation?
Yes, so for this operation, one of our core values as an institution is respect for human rights. So we are making sure that each child picked up is with the parents or an adult sibling. After the medical screening, the next profiling is going to ensure that for each child, we can identify the parent before the next line of action. So we are not going to remove children who are unaccompanied or who are not with their parents. For that, we are very sure of that.
As the Government Immigration Service there, let's stay a bit further on this matter. Emmanuel Kuting is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism. Mr. Kuting, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Alfred, thank you for having me, and very good evening to our cherished listeners.
Well, would you also share in those who raise this point that this is not the first time the Ghana Immigration Service is going on this path of rounding up these immigrants who are in this country illegally but are begging on the streets. A few days later, we find them back on the streets, or another group of immigrants begging illegally on the streets as well. So this may just not be a step that would sustain, as it were, that act of ridding our streets of these immigrants. You sharing that thought?
Well, I think there is new Controller General. I think we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, given he has come out with his own systems to create the impact. The challenge I have with the operation is that it didn't have this nationalistic outflow. And you know that more often than not, the way information flows, those in other regions may not come out for a period. And when the immigration time period passes, they return to to our streets. So that's why we get some of these things. But you see, Alfred, we must view these operations very critically. I think the right intervention wouldn't have been wouldn't have been to arrest the children, but rather they should have been protecting them. And this raises a lot of questions. You see, if you look at the ECOWAS protocol on movement of persons within the ECOWAS sub-region, and maybe if you look at the national conventions and obligations as far as Ghana is concerned, I think there are some human rights issues here. Let's put the issues into context. The ECOWAS protocol and the free movement of persons. Yes, within the ECOWAS sub-region, you can move to other countries for 6 months without a visa. But that doesn't mean you can engage in some form of illegality. So you see these women and children, most of them are fleeing from violent extremism-related challenges or instability in their countries. So to me, I think it's an ECOWAS issue because there's lack of effective monitoring and regulation. So if you look at the protocol, it's on the facilitation of movement, you see that there are limited infrastructure to track and manage vulnerable migrants, especially children. And if you look at the social protection system, so there are gaps. You see, the free movement does not guarantee access to basic services of protection in the host countries. So children on the move often fall through the cracks, and this leads to forms of abuse. And if you look at these children on the street, it's not in their rightful thinking they are doing that. It's their mothers who are pushing them to do what they are doing.
Absolutely so. And that's why I bring in, if you acknowledge that it's their mothers or their parents who are pushing them and exposing them to all the vulnerabilities, then how do we address it as a country? Because, I mean, if we are arresting their parents, rounding them up to deport them, including their children, and you're raising human rights issues bothering on the children involved, how do we distinguish between the two? Or we certainly cannot tackle their parents and leave their children in here.
Very good question, Alfred. That's why we have to look at the national conventions and obligations as a state. And if you look at the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, and the last one is the Protocol to Prevent, Suppress, and Punish Trafficking in Person. You know that one was recently done in Petroleum. We call it the Petroleum Protocol. If you put all of these instruments together, Alfred, it prohibits child exploitation, including forced begging. And this has been with us for a long time. What has the authorities done about it? It also requires that states have to cooperate across borders to protect these children. Do we see that within the ECOWAS sub-region? No. And it also emphasizes that anything we do or actions we take, it must be in the best interest of what? The child. So you see that all of this, that's why I started by saying that it's a good exercise, but it should have had a nationalistic outlook where the operations would have covered all the regions simultaneously, then no one can go under the bar. Then we get rid of this once and for all, like the immigration officer was talking about. And if you show that traffickers are exploiting these children, they are dealt with under the confines of the law. Then we look at how we can rescue and rehabilitate these children and look at their safe repatriation to their various countries. But Alfred, we can't be talking about all of these things without looking at the root causes. Otherwise, we'll be scratching and talking in circles over the same issue. It is a fact that the symptoms are deeper. One, poverty and instability in West Africa as a whole. So what is ECOWAS doing about that? And the lack of education and opportunity for women and children. And you know, these are even facts. Even in our country that we have stability, we have all these things happening. And we have failure of national child protection system. Even in Ghana, if you go to the villages, you see that the children more or less have been enslaved. But because of our cultural system, where we gloss over some of these things. And there are weak cross-border cooperation and intelligence sharing among the ECOWAS countries. So it's a big problem. So what would be my recommendation, Alfred? I think we need to strengthen ECOWAS monitoring mechanism. We need to create cross-border child protection protocol. And the host country must always be supported, like in the case of Ghana. Ghana needs to be supported with funding to be able to manage some of the crises like we are seeing today. Because whether we like it or not, it's the taxpayers' money we are going to resolve a problem that is otherwise not a Ghanaian problem, but an institutional caricature as a result of ECOWAS failures.
And on that particular point about the failures in the sub-region, how about the porous borders as well? Because tackling them when they get in is one aspect of the solution. But if we also don't look at how they get in, we might just be scratching the surface of the solution, is it not?
Alfred, you are very right with our borders. But with our women and children, they are so fragile. And these fragile migrants cannot come through the illegal borders. They come through our roads. It's just lack of enforcement. The immigration officers at our various borders, they are sometimes lackadaisical. Sometimes when it comes to some of these things, they want to put human face to it. But it snowballs to situations where we have, like we have in our capital city, where you turn at any intersection, you see children begging. And that does not even augur well for Ghana in our international standing. So the whole thing still falls back to ECOWAS. So if you ask me, is ECOWAS falling on its ideals? In fact, I would say that no, but it is falling short in execution. And without robust protection, free movement becomes a tool for exploitation and not empowerment.
Mr. Coates, appreciate you for this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Most grateful, Alfred.
Emmanuel Kuting is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism there. Shall I have you on Hot Edition? The Ghana Health Service situation